Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Rebel Show. Hope everybody's enjoying their summer. It's been nice. It's been nice and warm here in Colorado. We're getting up to the 90s, so we're still doing well. So today, I want to go and talk a little bit about like the inspiration for the Rebel Show. I don't know if I've ever told the full story, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to do something a little different and give a more of a positive tone. So, as you guys know, I work at Charis Bible College, which is a school I started going to after I was laid off from the environmental company I worked for in the Springs. I just thought I'd go there and just kind of see, what's God have for me? What's going on, So the school is 2 years for the main curriculum, and then they have a third year that's optional, which I didn't do. And they have different options you can do. But the first 2 years are basically biblical training and learning about the Bible, what's in the Bible, and how to apply it. So like technically like become a pastor or something like that, which is not, I don't really feel like I'm a pastor or anything, but so I was in my second year of the Bible college, and in the second year they had what they call as interactive speaking groups, and of groups around 12 people where you get up and you have to basically teach on a given topic for like anywhere between 2 to 10 minutes, just depending on whatever class it is. So it was basically to get you practiced up on public speaking is basically what they're trying to do. So I was in one of those classes one day, and they had the instructor, he was talking about how there was this guy named Lance Wallnow in one of the schools, one of the third year schools, and he was talking about this guy that's the chaos candidate, this guy that's the wrecking ball of political correctness. And he's talking about Donald Trump. And so I was like, what? Because this is coming up to the 2016 elections way before Trump ever got the nomination. And this guy's basically predicting Trump coming out as president. And you can look up Lance Wallnow on Facebook. He has websites and everything. And he's a pretty good inspiration for me. But so this instructor is talking about this Lance guy. So I'm like, what? Because, as a conservative, like our best option we thought at the time was Ted Cruz. But he just doesn't have the backbone, So what I did is I read Lance wrote a book called The Chaos Candidate. It's about how he believes that Trump is a Cyrus, and he's a non-Christian being raised up by God because there's nobody in the Christian body who would stand up. So I got interested. So I started reading Trump books, I wanted to learn more about him. I'd kind of seen his TV show. I had read some of his books before when I was studying finance. And so I kind of knew about his message. I watched a bunch of his speeches and videos, and I still watch a bunch of his speeches and videos, by the way. And so after doing this for a bit, I felt like, man, I'm supposed to do something. What am I supposed to do? I feel like I need to get involved somehow. And I feel like I was inspired by God to just do a show like I'm doing right now, doing exactly what I'm doing right now. And I was like, that's God, that's not me. It's got to be something else. So I just kept seeking God, and it just kept coming back to do this show, do a show, just get your voice out there, start researching and studying and speak what you've learned and speak truth to people, because the mainstream media is lying in a lot of cases, and there's not a lot of like people that are really trying to do it right, And so one night, it was a Sunday night, I decided, okay, I'm going to buy the equipment. And so I got on Amazon and I made the order and I purchased it. And that was a Sunday night, right? So the next morning I went to work, and Mondays and Wednesdays at Charis are days they do worship the very first hour of the day. So the next morning was worship, and I was in, and since I'm in the AVL department, I was setting up for the band. And one of the band members came up, and he's a guy that's super happy, smiles all the time, and super nice guy. His name's Trey. He just walked up to me with a big smile like normal and basically just blindsided me. And he said, you can do what God called you to do. God knows you. He built you. He knows what you can do, and you can do it. And I was kind of floored because I hadn't told anybody except Michelle, my wife, I was going to do a show. So she was the only one that knew. Me, God, and her. And somehow Trey knew something was up, and God gave him a word for me. And I love that supernatural aspect of it, because that really was a confirmation I was on the right track, When you're thinking something and you're working through something, all of a sudden someone comes up and speaks it to you, that's an inspiration. That's how God works. And so I decided to work in this show. And, I wanted to inspire people who want to stay out of politics and just be happy Christians. That's really my goal. I want to help them wake up, or we will not be happy Christians. If we're quiet and we sit on the sidelines for too much longer, we'll be the enemy of the state. Like history, we are about to become the heretics again. So many popes and kings murdered tons of Christians because they wouldn't line up with what they believed. Nebuchadnezzar threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace because they stood for what God said and they stood for their God versus bowing to the statue. And we're not far from that right now. If people don't line up with the status quo or the political correctness, we could become the next hunted. So this is a warning to everybody that we should be paying attention. Throughout history, tyrants have had all power, kings, dictators, and popes, and they have killed and tortured millions. And freedom has something that it's relatively new on this planet. Through most of society on this planet, there's been a king or some kind of a tyrant type leader. Some of them were good and they treated the people right, but most of them were bad. If you read through the book of Kings and Chronicles in the Bible, most times it'll say that the king did evil in the sight of God, but occasionally they did bad. They attacked freedoms, they enslaved the population. And my inspiration was to wake up the American citizens. It's time for us to stand up and take action. I keep pounding the same message, to stop the tyranny of the American federal government, who's overstepped its boundaries. It's overstepped the Constitution. It's we the people, by the people, and for the people. We the people, not the politicians for the people. The politicians are supposed to be us. And they get in there and then they're for 40 years and do nothing. One thing we have to realize is Congress calls themselves falsely our leaders. They're not our leaders. We are their leaders. And we have handed over our authority and just kind of let them do whatever. We are the power behind the government. Government is a reflection of our society. So if we don't like where the government's headed right now, it's because we didn't act. Society fell by the wayside, and now we have a corrupt, pro-socialist, big government society who want free things that's going to bankrupt the nation. It's already $22 trillion in debt. How much more giving away can we do, And the blame goes to the generations not paying attention. Too long have we wanted to sit back and just hope everything is going to work out. That's not how it works. Do you think that's how the Revolutionary War worked? That, maybe the British will just get tired of trying to take over and they'll just go. No, they had to fight to the point where they give up. And to those who gave up their freedoms and responsibility, a lot of people just gave up and said, well, I don't like either guy. I don't like anybody running for office, so I ain't voting. You're giving up your rights by doing that. You got to have a voice. To pastors who do not talk about politics and government, I call on pastors. We need you. Sometimes when they mention something in politics, they apologize right away. Oh, I'm sorry for bringing this. No, we need that. It's very important. The pulpit is to be the leader of the moral compass, not an entertainment center, which is kind of what it's become in churches more. A place to go in, see some flashing lights and feel good, and we're missing the truth. The church has been bullied, backed down, and become irrelevant for the modern fight for freedom. The church has just become a sideline concert that we go to, a feel-good sermon. It was the Black Robe Regiment in the Revolutionary era. The soldier pastors who, after preaching their sermon, took off their pastoral robes to reveal a military uniform, because they were generals and such. They preached on the issues of the day and called their men to action. The men kissed their wives, took up arms, and headed to fight tyranny. Look up the Black Robe Regiment. It's a pretty cool story. And they won. These men went to war and they won. You can read more about those patriots at wallbuilders.com or the National BlackRobeRegiment.com. As these men gave up all and fought for our freedom. On this 4th of July, let's remember those fallen warriors and all those who gave everything to the freedom that we have. There's lots of them, and we need to remember them. Let's also remember those who risked all so future generations could live free. There's people that believed in freedom so much, they were willing to give their lives so that we could be free. I mean, that's a strong belief. You don't get to live it, but you're willing to fight and die for it. That's pretty strong stuff right there. It was a long time coming, too. So my goal was to learn for myself and to spread the truth to on-the-fence Christians, to inspire someone to read history or become inspired to get involved in our dying society. At least to cast a vote for someone who is closest to their belief. They don't have to line up perfectly, but they have to be close, you know. Sometimes Christians fail to see the big picture and think that we're holier than thou, and because such and so did something, we can't vote for him. And we miss the interjection of God in society. Remember the Cyrus, the wrecking ball, the anointed. You know, God didn't know Trump yet at the time, but he called him. This is what it's looking like, you know. My goal of this show is to inspire on-the-fence Christians and gain unity in the body to stop the infringement of our freedoms by government and to encourage the people to vote. That's the biggest thing. My main desire is to inspire people to develop an interest in history and learn the intentions of our founders to be equipped to defend our God-given freedoms our Constitution protects. That's really the goal, to protect what was built so it can last on and on and on. And without this patriotism, our nation dies. Thank you very much.